Hello basses, I wanted to go over this minor hand shape, in particular all the shifting that happens right around here. There's some things that happen, and there's also some shifting around here that's a little different. So we're going to split this into two parts. The first part is going to be this scalar part right here, getting up to this position. You'll notice that this note might look a little unfamiliar to you, and that's because here's where D lives. See this tape right here? We're actually going to be playing one whole step above that, meaning a first to fourth finger above that high D. So it's important that we set ourselves up so we get to that in a good way. One thing I want to show you is that it's going to require a pivot, and you'll notice that there's an X there. That X means a pivot, and what I mean by that is, if you'll look, do you notice how my thumb is planted back here? I'm going to play first finger on that C sharp, second finger on D, and notice what happens to my thumb. My hand moves, but my thumb does not. My thumb stays planted and it does a pivot. So those last two notes, C sharp, D, E with the pivot, we work on planting that thumb. Okay? So we're going to talk about how to get up into that position first for the scalar portion. So I'm starting on this B right here, and in first position, this B is a fourth finger. Normally when we move up to the next position, we move so our first finger's on this tape, second finger's on C sharp, and fourth finger's on D, but we're going to change that up a little bit in order to get ready for that E. So we're going to play a fourth finger on B. We're going to shift up so our first finger is where C sharp lives, second finger's on D, then we're going to pivot up so our first finger moves to that first finger tape, or that fourth finger tape where D lives, and our fourth finger plays E. My thumb did not move, it just pivoted in place. So those four notes look like this. Pivot. I want you to take a second and practice just that. You're going to pause the video, and I want you to practice going from B to C sharp with first finger, B to C sharp with first finger. Practice that over again. Then I want you to practice the pivot. Then I want you to practice it all together. So I want you to pause your video and practice that chunk right there, especially the shift. Go ahead and pause. You are now unpaused, so I'm assuming that you've practiced this and have taken a second to practice that shift. We're going to talk now about the second half of this section, and that's when we do thirds. So we're going to skip, step down, skip up, step down, skip up, okay? And how this looks on our fingerboard is we're going to be jumping around a little bit, but when you think about how it all lays out, it actually works out kind of nice. And to me, it feels kind of cool to do this kind of skipping and stepping. So the way the fingerings would work, we're starting right here on this A up to the first shift. So we're going to play our first finger on A down here, and we're going to shift up so our fourth finger is on C sharp. So we're going to play A, C sharp. The reason why we do this is because if our positioning is right, our first finger is already over B. Do you see how it's on this B tape? So if we shift like that, we've set ourselves up now to play B with first finger. So now we're going to play the B with first finger right here to a D with second finger. So first finger B. Now we're shifting up so our second finger hits D. And what's really cool is, because we use second finger, our first finger is already in position for that next note, C sharp. Our first finger is already there. So now we're going B with first finger, D with second finger, and we're C sharp with first finger. And we're going to do that pivot to get our fourth finger on E. Okay, so the whole section, starting all the way from this A, looks like this. And that's how we make our way all the way up. Now, you have one other fingering you want to look at, and that's one we already know, but it's just something a little different. Because our fourth finger here is on E, we're already in position to play this A on the D string. As opposed to shifting all the way back down here for A and having this big jump that we don't need to do. Our fourth finger is here. Our first finger is already over A if we play it on the D string. So we finished that up with our first finger on C sharp. And then our first finger is already on A. So that whole section, now starting all the way from A here, looks like this. So here's what I want you to practice. We're going to, here in a little bit, I want you to practice this. You're going to practice each shift. You're going to practice A to C sharp, A to C sharp. Then you're going to add the B. A, C sharp, B. Practice that again. A, C sharp, B. And you're going to think of that as one chunk. Then you're going to start with that first finger on B, and you're going to practice the B to D shift. B, D, back, B, D, and that's a shift because our thumb is moving. B, D, then you add the C sharp. B, D, C sharp, okay? B, D, C sharp, and then you practice the next three notes. C sharp, E, A, C sharp, E, A. Practice them in three separate chunks. A, C sharp, B, the B, D, C sharp, the C sharp, E, A, and then you put it together. I would like for you to pause this video and practice just these chunks, each three chunk, all separate, and then practice putting them together. And that's how you shift through. So pause the video. You're back from the pause. This is what the whole thing sounds like and what it looks like. Take some time, think of it as chunks. You have the scalar chunk in the beginning, that you can break that chunk into just the shift. You have the thirds chunk in the end, that you can break each one of these jumps into a chunk, or just split it in half and practice the shifting parts, and then practice it all together. That's how you do the shifting for the minor hand shapes.